Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. Now, to add to another long line of compromised judges like Boasberg, Engeron, and so on, we can add Jennifer Thurston. This is the one who you remember just the other day said that ICE couldn't make any more arrests without these warrants. Okay, so check this out. Laura Loomer has uncovered the husband of California U.S. District Judge Jennifer L. Thurston, the judge who just ruled that President Trump's administration can't arrest any more illegal aliens unless they have a warrant for their arrest, is a multi-family real estate broker in California who caters to the Illegal Alien and Immigrant Committee and makes Instagram videos about how Donald Trump's mass deportations and immigration policies are bad for multi-family real estate brokers and investors. He was appointed by Joe Biden in 2021. Folks, if this is not a conflict of interest, I do not know what is. I'm going to scroll down here and let you watch a little of this guy's Instagram videos.
Immigration policies of the United States are going to be changing shortly. So how will this impact real estate? Central Valley of California, roughly 10 to 30% of the labor that works in new construction is undocumented. But the other factor that nobody's talking about is what happens to all of those laborers that currently rent apartment units or rent.
I'll tell you what happens to these folks. They get sent back home. And you know what happens? The affordable housing crisis in America is solved. I don't know how many of you have kids who are just moving out of the house, might be looking for a place. Rents are high. It's tough to buy homes because they're so expensive right now. Well, if you take this vast swath of illegal immigrants, people who should not be here, who should not be living in these places, and you send them back home, guess what happens to housing? It becomes more affordable. They have displaced American workers. So why is it that 20 to 30% of the construction is done by people who should not be here? Is it because the companies can hire them for less and then take jobs away from Americans? That's the real problem.
Houses. So in the agricultural world in the Central Valley, that is upwards of 50% of the employees. So this could result in upwards of 9,500 people being displaced out of their rentals.
So just think about that, 50% of the workers. Now, we've always had migrant farm workers who come up and work their way up as the season changes, and they come in on visas. Okay, so that can still be done. But to think that they can now just stay here in the United States, enjoy the benefits of the United States without actually having to go through the citizenship process, that's just sick and wrong.
As a landlord, you could be in neighborhoods that would see a spike in vacancy. Who is going to backfill those units, and how long is that going to take? You need to be very proactive on staying on top of your rents and addressing the needs of your residents in order to keep them happy, prepared to pivot quickly if you end up getting vacancy due to tenants who have been relocated out of the country.
The local community relocated out of country, folks. What we're talking about is deportation. So now this one leads with rumors of ICE in Bakersfield. Who knew? The bad rumors of the bad ICE guys.
That the immigration services are starting to crack down on undocumented workers in the Central Valley. And I know in Bakersfield, there are approximately 15,000 undocumented workers just in the agriculture and construction industries alone. And we also know that a large majority of these people rent, and they tend to have multiple roommates. And
so yeah, they tend to rent. They tend to have multiple roommates. So back up here, let's go to this. The massive conflict of interest cast doubt on Judge Thurston's April 29th, 2025 issuance of a preliminary injunction forbidding the U.S. Border Patrol from conducting warrantless immigration stops throughout a wide swath of California. This injunction applies to Kern County, California, including Bakersfield, where Judge Thurston's husband is in the business as a multi-family real estate broker. Mark A. Thurston, Judge Thurston's husband and senior vice president at ASU Commercial, specializes in Bakersfield multifamily residence market. In video evidence exclusively obtained by Loomer Unleash, Mark Thurston stated on his Instagram account in multiple videos that he filmed this year since President Trump's inaugurations that deportations of undocumented immigrants would harm the local rental market in Bakersfield. Folks, do you know what it's not going to harm? the people that are actually looking to rent. Do you remember all the reports we had in the Biden years where they were giving out these cards with $6,000 in available cash and then refilling them? And as a result, people in like Springfield, Ohio is one of them with the Haitian immigrants. And all of a sudden, people, American citizens, could not afford the rent because the landlords were able to charge more because of the highly competitive nature of rentals and the fact that these immigrants who were here, undocumented immigrants or let in on asylum, whatever it was, were allowed to simply have all this money so they could go pay whatever they needed to for rent and leave American workers and American people out in the cold, our citizens. That's why you saw the uprisings in Chicago. This was an absolute travesty and miscarriage of justice by the Biden regime to allow all these people in here, fly them all over the country, and then give them this money so that they could outbid Americans on the housing market. It's absolutely horrendous and terrible. So Loomer goes on to say that Judge Jennifer L. Thurston should have recused herself from the Trump administration case due to bias and personal financial gain resulting from her ruling, which benefits her husband's business. Seems obvious, right? According to the Federal Judiciary and Judicial Procedure Guidelines, that all U.S. federal judges are required, okay, not told they maybe should, but required to follow. A judge is required to recuse themselves from a case if they find themselves conflicted with any of the following rules below. Look at this. 28 U.S. Code 455A requires recusal if a reasonable person, knowing all facts, might question the judge's impartiality. So let me ask you, now that you know these facts, do you question the judge's impartiality? Comment in the chat. I'd love to see. 28 U.S. Code 455B4 mandates recusal, listen to this, if the judge's spouse has a financial interest that could be substantially affected by the case's outcome. Both of these apply to Thurston. She is another example of a leftist Biden-appointed activist judge, and she needs to recuse herself. Let's go back here to the last clip from this guy's Instagram video, her husband, Mark. Listen to this.
There's a lot happening in the Bakersfield multifamily market, and if you're investing, you need to pay attention. Recently, school attendance dropped after a major immigration sweep. Why does that matter? Because schools receive funding based on attendance, and when that funding drops, it impacts the overall economy. On the surface, the market looks strong. Values were up 10%. But here's the catch. That growth came from new properties, and resale properties were actually flat last year. We also saw 3 large multifamily sales last year, which accounted for almost 40% of the entire sales. And those numbers alone skew everything. Vacancy rates are up, values are softening, and if immigration policies continue to change, that could really impact the demand for rentals. So what does this all mean? Rent prices could go down, but that's not always a good thing because
because a slow market could follow. So it's not good for him. It's not good for his business, folks. But do you know who it's good for? Americans, especially young Americans who are trying to rent places they can't afford to buy yet, and they've been priced out of the market due to these crazy immigration policies. So this guy is obviously not pro-American. He's very pro himself, and I think this just absolutely shows that this judge should not be seeing a case like this because she has way too much financial interest at stake. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Also, please go check out my sponsor, MyPillow. That's mypillow.com/lumberjack or call 1-800-568-2865 for the best prices on the best sleep products available. We'll see you on the next episode, folks. Peace out.